of the condition of the Labour Party that she is now the leader. Because everybody in here, without exception, has more experience of what life is like than Kezzy Dugdale. And I don't say that to attack the lassie. Kezzy went to university. She was in student politics. She left university and became a researcher to George Fuchs when he was an MSP in the Scottish Parliament, became an MSP and is now the leader. What does she know about life? All of us in here have gone through the mill, we've been skint, we've been made redundant, we've had our jobs threatened, we've had the wains with measles and all the rest of it. Kezzy knows nothing about that. I don't say for a single moment that she's not genuine in her anxiety about poverty and all the rest of it. But that's abstract. It is not based upon experience of life. And I come from the Labour Party. And I find it inconceivable that the Labour Party I joined when I left the Navy in 1960 could pick a Kezzy Dugdale to be the leader of the Labour Party in Scotland. And it's really an indication of how far down they have actually gone. Jeremy Corbyn is another interesting phenomenon, because what he's managed to do, or what he is in his campaign, is a cry of pain from genuine socialists inside the Labour Party at what Blair and Brown turned it into, sort of red Tories. So we don't have anything to fear from a Labour Party that's intellectually bankrupt and hasn't had a new idea for a very, very long time. What we have to concentrate on is the condition of Scotland and what our strategy and tactics have to be in order to win independence as soon as we possibly can. What I want to start with is explain the world economic situation to you, because it's important to us, because the United Kingdom fits in to that position. We're on the brink of a precipice in the world economy at the present time. China, the Communist Party of China, will declare 7% GDP rate of growth. And because the Communist Party says it, it's supposed to be true. Well, I've got a friend, Jim Walker, who's a Scot, works out of Hong Kong with his own analysis business, who's an expert in China, has for the last 4 or 5 years been warning his clients that the Chinese economy is in serious trouble. And the reason for that is based on an export model, so that they can sell golf clubs to us and anything else. But the problem with an export model, if your export markets stop buying, then you're in difficulty. The United States market isn't buying the same amount from China. The Eurozone is in great difficulty, and the Eurozone is not buying the same amount from China. One of its other major markets is Japan. And Japan's economy has been stagnant now, no movement for the last 25 years. So the economic model that brought China from a very, very low position to one of the world's leading economies, that model no longer applies. But it's not an easy thing for the Chinese government to turn that ship around. If you think you're a big tanker, when a big tanker at the sea wants to turn, it takes a long time for that turn to take place. And you're dealing with an economy of 1.2 billion people, with half of them still in the rural areas and actually quite poor. There's about maybe 300 million middle class, very well off Chinese, but the rest are actually poor. So they have to find a way of reorientating their economy so that they start manufacturing things that the poor can start to buy in the rural economy. So China is in difficulty, which puts Australia in difficulty, because Australia has been selling its iron ore to China. Right now, the Chinese Communist Party in government is manufacturing steel and still digging coal mines that it actually cannot use, because if it stops them, then there'll be social problems. So that's one component of the world economy. Eurozone in a dreadful state. I'm just back from Portugal, where the standard of living is now back to 1990, where there's 2.6 million people living in devastating poverty, worse than we've got here. Greece is a basket case. Germany is beginning to struggle as well, because Germany's model is also based upon exporting to the rest of the world, and so in a sense they're roughly the same position as China. The United States has 3% GDP growth this year, and that looks good. But if you examine the component parts of that GDP, then it starts to see that it's not so good at all, because a fair amount of the growth is companies manufacturing to put into their inventories, to put stuff on the shelf, hoping that somebody will buy it further on down the road next year or the year after, and that's a sign of weakness. So the world economy could actually tip back into a very serious recession over the next 2 or 3 years. And if you look at the United Kingdom economy, within that context, it's in a very vulnerable position. You know, during the referendum, Better Together told us, get the strength of the United Kingdom round we puny Scotland. Well, actually, there's no strength there. The reason that there's growth in the UK economy can be described in one word: debt. The government debt is now over £1.5 trillion. This year, the government will borrow £75 billion to add to that total. What's buoying up the economy is the borrowing all of us are doing. Private debt in the UK on credit cards and mortgages and unsecured loans is £1.4 trillion and rising. So it's not based on any significant change or strength within the economy. And if the world tips over into the abyss, then the UK will be in serious, serious trouble, and it'll be up to us to get us out of it as soon as we possibly can. And that's the background against which members of the SNP in particular, and yes, supporters in general, have to look at and understand when we deploy our strategy and our tactics. There's another thing that we have to take into account that hasn't even registered yet. In 2020, there's another election for the Westminster Parliament. The Tories are going to win it again, with an even bigger majority. Not because they'll do any good, but because they're reducing the numbers in the House of Commons from 650 members to 600. And they're redistributing the boundaries south of the border and up here, but we don't really matter in that context. That's going to give the Tories an extra 25 seats without trying. And we've got to get it through to the Scottish people. Do you want once more another English Tory government that we despise ruling over us on the economy and welfare in 2020? Can we suffer the austerity that's going on at the moment, the humiliation of the poor, and are we prepared to put up with that again come 2020? Well, from my point of view, the answer is no. We can't afford it. Too many of our people will be seriously damaged if we allow that to happen. So there's going to be UK failure. And one of the criticisms that I make of the Yes campaign is that we did not attack that argument about the big, strong United Kingdom. We should have done far more to educate our people about the fundamental weakness of the United Kingdom economy, because the fundamental weakness lies in London and the South East, and over-reliance on casino banking and casino finance centres down in London. Highly vulnerable. But we didn't make anything of that. From now on, we've got to be able to say to the people, we better get out of this before that lot take us down the pan along with them, because that's where, in fact, they're going. Now, there's arguments about the referendum, and I must say to the SNP here, it's very kind of you to invite this dissident along. What I want you to do is think back to January 2014 and the level of independence in the opinion polls at that time. 29%. That's all. There was a reason for that. From 1992 up until last year, the SNP as a party never fought an independence campaign. Now that might seem remarkable, but it's true. We fought Westminster elections on slogans like a stronger voice for Scotland, somebody to speak up for us. That's not a campaign for independence. You have to go out and say to people, I want you to vote for me for independence. And that's been dodged. In one of the Glasgow by-elections, the press asked, you're not saying anything about independence, and the party said, no, we've parked that for the duration of this by-election campaign. And in Fife, another by-election in the same year, they were asked again, and they said, we'll put that on the back burner. Now, if you don't fight independence elections, week by week and year by year and election by election, you get 29% last January. What took us from 29% to 45% was the independence campaign during the referendum. Now, there's a lesson in that for the party and yes campaigners who may not be in the party but like to see it make progress. If we stop campaigning for independence, that 45% will start slipping back as people give up hope. If we campaign, but if we consistently campaign for independence, we're not starting at 29%, we're starting at 45%. I've got a ward-by-ward breakdown of how Scotland voted in the referendum.